Yeah. So you said you've been bartending some lately.
I have been.
Do you enjoy it?
I do.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Learning from Keenan's been amazing. He's so knowledgeable. And we just sit back there, like if we're not busy making cocktails or talking to guests, we're talking about spirits and the evolution of how these things came to be.
Yeah.
And it's just been a blast,
Yeah.
And it's inspired me to be more creative with the food too.
Mm.
So I started making vinegars out of vegetable juice last week, which I'm really excited about. So we may use them in as like shrubs and drinks.
Yeah.
But also like just stuff in the kitchen too.
That's cool.
Like marinating,
Yeah. How do you make vinegar out of vegetable juice?
So you take the vegetable juice and it's called backslopping. You add a mother.
Yeah.
So like that Bragg's apple cider vinegar that still has a mother in it. So you add a certain percentage of that, and then you add a little bit of Everclear or like overproof alcohol, and it stops it from spoiling right away.
Huh.
And then you put it's called a air stone. You put a little air stone in the bottom of it, and it just bubbles.
Oh, wow.
So it keeps the oxygen like moving around in there. And after 14 days, you have vinegar.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Huh. What's the flavor profile of it like compared to like a typical white distill? Does it taste like the vegetable juice?
It tastes and smells like the vegetable juice, but it also has more texture.
Okay.
Like the butternut squash one's a little bit thicker. So it's got like more of a palate feel than a regular vinegar would.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I think vinegar, if I could highlight one ingredient, I don't know if the ingredient is the right term, like flavor fucking thing. I don't fucking know. There's one thing that like the food in Syracuse is lacking more than anything. To me, I would say it's like that acidic vinegary component.
Yeah, we do a lot with that in the restaurant.
Yeah.
We're because my whole thing is that I want the food to like punch you in the face. Like I want it to be so flavorful that like you don't forget it. I know there's other ways to go about it, but that's just always been my approach. Is like, how do I make this like an unforgettable meal?
Yeah.
So hopefully we're achieving that on a regular basis. It seems like our clientele really like what we're doing.
Yeah. You're still alive.
Still alive, you know, even though COVID, shut everybody else down, we're still doing pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's always been the goal. Is just like, how do I? Because when I go out for a meal, I think we've talked about this before. Especially at a restaurant like ours, like at a price point like ours, I'm disappointed if I don't walk away like thinking, how did they do that? Like wanting to figure it out. So that's kind of where I draw my inspiration from.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you're running the business and being the chef at the same time. But we finally have a full kitchen staff now, so I have a little bit more time to like go and do those other research projects and
that's cool.
Change things up a little bit.
Yeah. What's that like? I mean, I know I've had this conversation, with too many times over the years on, cooking and being cooking and it being like an art form. It's like something I can't attain, right? And Cody used to always say it's a craft, like anybody can do it if you just put the time and effort into it. I think you kind of have the same approach.
Yeah.
Now that I'm cooking more with a restaurant and then some other stuff, I kind of get that a little bit. Like you can learn stuff, and if you get educated on how to do stuff, and you put the time into it, you can figure it out. And so I kind of get that a little bit more. But is it more challenging for you to? What's more challenging for you, to be back in the kitchen on the line on a Friday night, or to be balancing the checkbook on a Monday morning?
They both have their own challenges, I guess. I really hate doing paperwork.
Yeah.
It's just it's part of who I am.
Yeah.
So doing the paperwork is definitely challenging for me. It's just challenging for me to like get motivated to do it, because the cooking part is instant gratification. I put a dish together, I put it on a plate, people like it, they tell me they like it. That's wonderful. My accountant doesn't give me praise if I write all the checks on time. So it's a little bit easier to get motivated to do the artistic part and the craft side of things than it is to balance the checkbook and deal with, workers' compensation and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's a necessary part of running a business. So that's something that I've learned, and it's something I've taken the last 3 years kind of out of the kitchen and kind of relied on some of the stuff that I knew before we started this to kind of get us along. But now that we've had a full staff, I have time to do both. you know, so I have time to balance the checkbook and make sure that things are going well on the financial side of things, and there's legal stuff too.
Yeah.
So to deal with all that stuff on like my administrative day, which is usually Tuesday, and then Wednesday through Saturday, be more creative, kind of go into the walk-in and think like, oh, what can I do with this stuff? What can I do with this really cool produce we got from Commons Red Farm this week? Or, you know, because there's a lot of cool stuff happening here.
Are you guys 100% or, you know, close to it, like locally sourced for New York?
We're pretty close. Obviously, there's some stuff you can't get here.
Yeah.
Like, I can't buy lemons and limes from New York. It's just,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, I'd say we're pretty close. You know, all our cheese comes from New York State. The bulk of our vegetables come from New York State. The one thing that we've always had trouble with is beef, because I can't find one farmer that can provide me with enough beef, because we sell, by far and away, beef is the most purchased thing in our restaurant.
Yeah.
So I haven't found a good beef supplier that can supply me with all of the New York strip that I need, because that's always on the menu.
Yeah.
But we've kind of worked our way around that. And this is I'm going to segue to something I'm really excited about in the new year. But we've kind of worked our way around that to buy from smaller farms and just buy the whole cow. And then we put those cuts on our menu.
That's cool.
So, and we run a certain number of cuts a night. And then whenever we run out, we run out.
Are you doing that now?
Yeah.
Holy fuck, that's awesome.
We've been doing it for 6 months now.
Holy shit, that's amazing.
Yeah, so you can get like a T-bone, a porterhouse. You can buy a
I knew that you did the menu. I didn't know it was because you were buying like, I love that menu of like, you know, and you pay by the ounce, right?
Yeah.
I love that concept when I saw it. But I didn't know you were doing it because you were buying the whole cow. I thought you were just doing it because there was nobody else really doing a fucking great steak in Syracuse.
No, we're buying the whole cow.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
I hope that we have the best steak in Syracuse.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the new year, we just got a dry ager today.
That's awesome.
And I am so excited about it.
Yeah.
It opens up so many possibilities with charcuterie,
Yeah.
you know, minimizing, because when we cut those New York strips, we always have that end that has the vein in it.
Yeah.
And we can't really sell those. So like, we'll turn them into meatballs, but that's kind of gotten old after a while. So now we can start making our own sausage and doing that in there, as well as dry aging beef.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited. We have 3 bone-in ribeyes coming tomorrow that I'm going to hang.
Wow.
And I'm pumped about it.
Huh. All right, so I got to ask you like an operational question as a restaurant owner. So for a restaurant like yourself, do you think about, and if you do, how do you, like, where do you find that line between effort into a dish for creativity and flavor and all that kind of stuff versus cost of time and food?
Well, I think, you know, it's generally the simplest things that are the most delicious. You know, we really just buy food and try not to screw it up.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of my mentality at the end of the day. So we don't do a whole lot to it, but as long as the flavor is there and like the ingredients are there, you know, it has to be a great carrot if you're going to make carrot puree out of it. That's how we start, you know, and then we don't really do too much to it. I remember working at another restaurant. It was here when I first moved here, and I was kind of finding my bearings. And they were ordering a bunch of food from Cisco, and trying to get a carrot to taste like a carrot from Cisco is not possible. Like you can't add enough salt. You can't add enough of anything to make it taste like not cardboard.
Yeah.
But if you get like this beautiful produce that we find locally, and then don't do too much to it, just roast it or turn it into a puree, or, you know, do something simple with it. It's already got all those flavors in it. You don't have to like really mess with it too much. That's what I found.
Okay.
You know, maybe add a little bit of acid, a little bit of salt, but it doesn't take too much to make something taste really good, as long as it started off good.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, because I'm just like I'm going through, you know, some of the stuff. It's like, okay, it's going to be all this scrap from the brisket. I could make sausage. I could make burgers out of it, you know. And then I'm thinking, like, is it going to be worth it? Can I justify the time of going through all of that to get a burger out of it, or should I just buy? You know, do I just need to buy the stuff? You know. So I know there's worlds different restaurants, but you know, but I'm going into it with a little bit more of like a creative mindset. And obviously, you know, Eden is, you know, one of the most creative restaurants in the area. So that's, you know,
Thank you.
You know, kind of where I'm like, I wonder what that line is.
We also, have traditionally done stuff that's really stupid and time consuming for no reason. I'll
Thank you.
be honest about that. You know, we've done like burger events that nobody shows up to because we're just not a burger joint people. Like our friends will show up, but it's not like a big to do like we expect it to be.
Yeah. That's pretty
So we've definitely done a few things in the past where it's like, you know, why do we put all this time and effort into this? But then we end up having ground beef and we'll do something else with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've definitely done our fair share of events that were just like a huge waste of time and nobody came to them. So that's, I mean, and that's partially my fault. I probably don't promote as much as I should. We could have like an email list, but I also find that stuff kind of annoying.
Yeah.
As a person that doesn't like paperwork, I also don't like emails.
Yeah.
So, you know, I see all that and I just delete it.
Right.
And I don't pay attention to it, so I figure nobody else is, but that's probably not true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess, you know, kind of your benchmark for that stuff and a certain degree should be the, you know, for yourself should probably be some of the Michelin stars in, you know, in New York, right? And so, I don't know, it is like, what's the one, Madison Park? Like, or, you know.
11 Madison Park. I'm actually going there on my birthday.
Are you really?
I'm really excited, yeah.
Wow.
I've been spending a lot of time in New York lately.
Yeah.
I've started dating somebody down there.
Oh, cool.
So I go down like at least once a month.
Okay.
And we'll go out to like Michelin star restaurants or something that I think is really cool.
Yeah.
Last time I went to Dante, which was, they have an awesome cocktail program. They also have a wood-fired restaurant that I didn't go to. But they have an awesome cocktail program. I picked up a couple ideas. Every time I go into one of these restaurants, I'll pick something up.
Yeah.
You know? I never met a good idea I didn't steal. So I'll see something and be like, you know, that's really cool. You know, how can we apply it to what we're doing?
Yeah.
We recently, like I went to Dante and I had the beef tartare and they served it with bone marrow. So now we have beef tartare with bone marrow on the menu, which is awesome. It's an awesome combination.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's something small from every restaurant that I go to there that's special. Like I went to Janoon last year, which is a Indian restaurant.
Okay.
Really, it's a Michelin star restaurant, and they stamped the ice with their logo.
Yeah.
And so I came back here, and we ordered a stamp for our ice because I was really excited about it. I just thought it was really cool when the glass was presented to me. So, well, I'll take those ideas and incorporate them in what we're doing.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of fun.
Yeah. I forgot what was my... 11 Madison Park probably doesn't have an email list, I'd imagine.
I'm not sure.
I mean,
I'm not on it if they do.
Next time you're at one of these places, ask them if you can join their email club and see what they say.
I think some of them, like I know with Square, like we use Square as a point of sale system, it'll put you on an email list. But there's also I've heard there's some kind of legalities about like whether or not you can harass people with those lists. So I just choose not to because I feel like it is harassment.
Yeah.
Because I don't need to know every time.
Yeah.
I get signed up for so much stuff because you have to enter your email address to do, you know, all kinds of different things. So there's just so much so much garbage that comes through.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's just stuff I don't want to look at.
Yeah. My point is I don't know if I want to get an email like Buried Acorn. Cool. You know, tell me about your bottle society, you know, or Tim's dressed up as Santa harassing people. Awesome. Send me an email about it. I don't know if I want to get an email from a fine dining restaurant that's like, you know, come in tonight. We've got a special on whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works or if it should just be kind of like part of the allure of going to some of those places is that, you know, they're not doing the same thing that everybody else is.
I think it's a mix. Like, I think what St. Urban does with their email program is pretty good. Because they do change their menu monthly. Yeah. So it just kind of gives you the update of like, okay, January is California. So you know kind of what to expect. I don't find their emails harassing, but like there's definitely other restaurants that I'm on their email list for no reason. And I'm just like, I don't really care that you're doing a bacon cheeseburger this month.
What do you think about St. Urban?
I like it. It's a much different restaurant than we have.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I go in there and I experience the service part of it. And sometimes I go in there and I'm like, man, we should really be doing this kind of service. But then I get back to our restaurant and it's just more low key. Yeah. And I kind of appreciate that about us. You know, we are like the servers like to joke around. You know, Brian is hilarious with the guests. And I'll sit in my office and listen to what he's saying to everybody. And I get a kick out of it. So I'm assuming the guests do too. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of struggle with like, should we up the ante and like replace the silverware between every course and, you know, have the servers walk to the table and make eye contact and drop the plates at the same time? Or should we just keep being kind of a fun restaurant?
Yeah.
And, you know, I kind of go back to when we started this, I wanted a restaurant that my dad would like to go to. And he's a pretty low-key guy. He's a steak and potatoes guy.
Yeah.
And I think he really enjoys spending time at our place. So
Yeah.
I think we're onto something with just like the friendliness and not being so stuffy.
Yeah.
But there's a place for that, you know, that higher end, like white glove service too.
Right.
And I worked in restaurants like that. You know, for 4 years, I worked in a restaurant like that. And it was cool. I learned a lot. It was a little stuffy.
Yeah.
And that's not my personality. So that's kind of like where I drew the line, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
somebody had recently sent me a DM on Instagram, and a follower, and she had asked, I think it was her husband's birthday or their anniversary, some special occasion. And she said, we're going back and forth between St. Urban and Eden. Which one would you choose? And I was like, that's a tough call because they're both amazing. I said, but St. Urban is more of like an experience. You're going to go there. You're going to be there for a while. You're probably not going to, you're going to be enthralled with everything that's happening there.
yeah,
And you're going to leave. You're going to pay a lot of money, but you're going to leave having this great experience and great dinner. If you go to Eden, you're going to have a phenomenal dinner, great experience, but it's not like this massive event, and not that you're trying to, or nor should it be, or that you're trying to make it be that. So I was like, that's what I said. I said, so St. Urban's more like an event. Eden's more like one of the best dinners you'll ever have. She was like, oh, that's perfect. That's how I would probably define the two of you to anything. Not that I'm not asking you what you think of St. Urban, because I'm trying to get you to, I'm not comparing the two of you. Very different restaurants.
It's tough to compare. And I think even Jared Paventi wrote something on Facebook. He was in for dinner last week, and he wrote something on Facebook, and the comments started going back and forth. And he's like, they're two totally different concepts. Like, you can't really compare the two.
Not at all.
And I think that's true.
I think you kind of get put into the same category, though, because in my mind, there's 3 restaurants in Syracuse that are worthy of a conversation of food outside of Syracuse, and that's you, St. Urban, and Amano.
Yeah.
Most other restaurants in this area, while they produce fine food and things like that, I would never hold them up against something from Buffalo or New York. Well, I don't know about Buffalo, but I would never hold them up against like something in New York City.
Yeah.
But you 3, I would. I'd be like, that's great. Fuck you. We have Amano.
Yeah.
And so that's why I kind of like lump. When people are ever ask that question, best restaurants in Syracuse, Amano, St. Urban, Eden. There's no question. Those are the only 3 that exist.
And they're 3 totally different concepts, 3 totally different styles of service.
Yeah.
And I would put the food at our 3 restaurants up against anything I eat in New York.
Yeah.
For me, it's all about flavor.
Yeah.
Alex does a great job with that. Jared does a great job with that and takes the service to a new level too.
Yeah.
So, I think you're right. I mean, those our 3 restaurants are doing really well.
Yeah.
And that was the whole point of opening Eden, was to put Central New York on the map. When we decided to open our restaurant, St. Urban wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
I don't think DeFee was even conceived of yet.
No.
Because we spent 2 years building the place.
Yeah,
so, there wasn't a place that I wanted to go out to eat necessarily. That was like jazzed to go out to eat at.
Right.
And then I opened a restaurant that I would be jazzed to go out to eat at, and I can't because I work there and own it. But there are other restaurants now that I'm pumped. So, if I ever get a chance to go see Alex at Amano, or if I get a chance the night off and I can go up to St. Urban, I will.
Yeah. I've wanted to do a dinner for a while where I invite like who I think are like 20 of the bigger food people in Syracuse, and we go to a different restaurant and on their night off. Alex said he would host it one night. And I was thinking like on a Monday night, Alex opens up, Eat Local pays for it, and we just invite 20 of the more influential chefs and restaurant owners and whoever, distillers, whatever, just 20 interesting people to dinner. Just hang out, get to know one another.
I would love to do that. I'd love to be involved with that, because I kind of have this dream of doing like where I'm from in Vermont, we have this fine wine and food festival every year, and it's just the best restaurants in the state get invited to it. And I think it's like 20 restaurants, and it's such a great event because it's like you know the food's going to be great, you know the wine's going to be great. They have a keynote speaker. I think one year was Alice Waters. They may have had Thomas Keller one year. I've always worked it, so I didn't get a chance to see the actual speech.
Yeah,
but it's a lot of fun, and it's a great way to promote the people that are doing, great work in the culinary field.
Yeah.
And I have kind of an idea. I want to do it at the Everson. We've had a little bit of a conversation about it, and involve farmers too.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of our whole deal.
That could be so. I will just say, because I'm feeling guilty about it, Kyle at Kasai, I would say, is probably like, if there's a fourth, it's Kyle. At Kasai. He's doing some really, especially some of this, like when him and Jesse turn their special, decide to like, hey, we're gonna flex, then they can flex on something.
Yeah.
Some of the best, I'd say, like top 10 dinners I've had in Syracuse are when I was doing some of his social media. He would do like these private dinners for people, and I would get to hang out in the kitchen and photograph each course. And then I'd say some of my favorite moments of last year were at the end of those dinners, Kyle would prepare like a dinner for me and him and Jesse, and we'd sit up in the restaurant and, late and eat that food, and then, have a couple drinks or something. So, if there is a fourth, I miss Defee. I wish that they were still open. I wish they had made it. Cody did some phenomenal things. But
I haven't had the opportunity to go in since Nick reopened it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I've worked with him on a couple events, but I haven't dined there either. I need to make one of the struggles I have with Eat Local is I get so pigeonholed to it's like, it's like I don't really go out often to like new places. I go to like the same spots. But back to your festival thing. So I've been watching the chef show on Netflix over and over again recently because I'm like gearing up for this restaurant. So I'm like watching that. It's like making me think of other shit. And I know that one of the episodes they did from like a few years ago was this Hot Luck. Is that Hot Luck? Hot Luck, I think is the name of the event that Aaron Franklin puts on in Austin, where it's like, is that. It's like he invites his friends that are chefs from around the country, like some of the best, and they all have like a little booth and make food and whatever. And I saw that, and I was thinking that'd be fucking awesome to do something like that here in Syracuse.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Not like a burger festival or anything like that, just like a food festival.
Yeah. I mean, it would just, I have a vision of something nicer than the Syracuse Food Festival.
Yeah. Or Taste of Syracuse.
Taste of Syracuse.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. Gets people downtown.
Right.
I'm glad that people get to try a bunch of restaurants' food, but like, you have OIP show up and Domino's, I think, was there one year. Right. It's like, it's not really a taste of Syracuse. It's a taste of like the restaurants that want to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, something a little bit more intimate, maybe with some kind of keynote speaker, somebody that's more influential in the food world.
Yeah, for sure.
Would be really cool.
Yeah. We might need to do something, Rich. We might have to do something. Yeah. Because Syracuse, like, I know talking to like Alex, Syracuse I think for some of you fine dining, I know, like, listen, you still exist. You've been open for a few years. So, the city has been great and, good enough, right? But by and large, our city, I don't think our area doesn't really get great food. They don't understand it.
I'll tell you, when I first moved here, the conversations I had with restaurant owners were, you can't do that here. You can't buy local. You can't charge that much for food.
Yeah.
I know we're expensive. I'm well aware of it. I'm aware of it because I pay the bills. I know how expensive the food is when it comes in. But I think that at the end of the day, people want that place they can go to for a special experience.
For sure.
Or their anniversary, or we've had a number of people get proposed to at our restaurant, and that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
That we can provide that to people.
Yeah.
I can't imagine somebody providing or proposing at I don't know,
OIP. Yeah.
OIP.
Yeah.
Not to shit on OIP.
Not to shit on OIP. Yeah. No, that's awesome. I just, it's like, I know Cody was really dedicated on that, on trying to cultivate like an area that had a better appreciation for finer food. And while St. Urban and Eden and Amano do just fine, I'd imagine. I wonder how we cultivate that even more, you know?
Well, there's some interesting stuff happening. I mean, there's that Italian restaurant, Lalu.
Yeah, La La Lu.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine they listen to this podcast. And, you know, I got to be careful because, you know, Rise and Shine is on the Eat Local card and it's the same owners, but that's nowhere near interesting food.
I've seen what they post on social media, and it looks interesting.
Yes.
I would love to go there and try it out.
Yeah.
And, you know, I haven't been there. I am excited to go when I get the chance. But it looks interesting. There's some cool concepts.
Yeah.
And I see that stuff, and I'm like, man, I wish we could afford new plateware so I could, like, you know, put this on this dish or, like, do the little clothesline thing. And
Yeah.
I've had some other ideas I want to do with, like, especially the fish dish
Yeah.
that I haven't gotten around to. But that it's very Instagrammable. You know, it's very, like, photogenic food.
For sure.
Which is really cool.
That's what they are. And you know, kudos to them, because if there is like an outlier in Syracuse when it comes to that style, it is Danielle. No one in this town, and 1,000 people have tried to copy her, especially from the Rise and Shine crazy menu aspect. No one does that as well as she does. Conceptually looking at something and being able to see it presented in a way that no one else has thought of, she's better than anybody else.
And it is impressive when you see it. I remember I went there for my birthday one year, and one of the cooks in the kitchen knew it was my birthday because we're friends on Instagram, and she brought me out a cake, and it was a rainbow cake on the inside, and I was like,
"Oh, that's cool.
This must have taken a lot of work."
Yeah,
and I was really impressed with it.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, so I mean, just, you know, the striking visuals are important too.
Yeah,
I struggle with taking pictures in our restaurant that include all of that, like the striking visuals and trying to include the fire aspect too. Like, that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but you know, like, so they present their food phenomenally. It's just not very good. Now, maybe I was there on like their soft opening, so I do want to go back in like a month or two and check it back out to see what's changed. But you know, they have like an Italian street taco on their menu.
Okay.
The fuck is an Italian street taco?
I don't know.
And what's even more painful is that their chef is like from Italy. He's only lived here for a few years.
Oh, really? I was wondering who the chef was there.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, what the fuck? Like, the Italian street taco is basically like a flatbread that's folded over a shit ton of arugula, some prosciutto, some mozzarella cheese, and then like some oil and vinegar, I think.
Okay.
And then they do tableside mozzarella service. So you get roasted beets and mozzarella as an appetizer, and they make the ball of mozzarella tableside.
Okay.
Which I think sounds fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So we ordered it. It wasn't curd. They had taken a ball of mozzarella, sliced it back up, and then dumped a bunch of boiling water in there to reconstitute it into a ball of mozzarella. So now, again, it was opening night. Maybe they ran out of shit. I need to cut them some slack, and it is it's the most beautiful restaurant for interior decoration.
I've heard that from several people, and I know the person that did their lighting. I think they have a vaulted ceiling that has lighting projected onto it. I know that he worked really hard on it, and he's very talented. So
yeah, it's I mean, it's nothing like anything else in Syracuse. It's like you walk in, like when I walked in there, it was like, oh, I'm in Las Vegas. I'm at an Italian restaurant in Las Vegas, which I think is fucking awesome.
Yeah,
you know, it's just they miss hardcore on the food.
It's hard though. I mean, I'll tell you, the first 6 months that we were open, I don't think it showed all that much, but I was ready to pull my hair out every day.
Really?
I mean, we had a lot of comments, people that came in the first 2 weeks, and they were like, oh, we kind of expected this to suck because you just opened. And I was like, well, I wouldn't let it suck because I wouldn't be doing this if I thought it was going to suck.
Yeah.
But also, you know, the first 6 months we were open was, I was kind of glad when COVID happened because I got a week off to like recuperate from the first 6 months. But, you know, as we reopened, I kind of got my bearings a little bit more about what the restaurant should be, how to simplify things so that they weren't as crazy anymore.
Yeah.
I was wearing myself and the whole staff out.
Yeah.
So, you know, now we're at a place where I feel like it's sustainable. Everybody's got a 4-day work week. They stay under 40 hours. They have health insurance now, benefits, which is awesome.
Yeah. How many stations do you have set up on the line? Like how many people does it take to really properly run that?
It's 3, sometimes 4. So we have one person that does all the entrees, one person that does appetizers. Either me or my sous chef Asa stand in the middle, and then the person standing in the middle expedites and they bounce back and forth. Whoever needs help, they just jump on that side.
Huh.
And that seems to work out pretty well.
Yeah.
And then recently, since I have 3 people in the kitchen and a dishwasher, I've been behind the bar, but if I see something's going on behind the line that like it looks like people are frustrated or freaking out, I can go back there and help out.
Yeah.
Which has been, and likewise when, Keenan looks like he's getting his butt kicked behind the bar, I can hop behind the bar and make a couple of drinks and, that's kind of always been my dream, is to be able to do everything.
Yeah.
And until I started working with Keenan, I really didn't have that ability. I really didn't know anything about bartending when I opened the place. I've been a chef for 25 years, but he's taught me quite a bit. In just like 3 weeks we've been working together.
That's awesome. Yeah, I felt like I knew something about cocktails and making them from my time at Abbott's and stuff over the summer, and then I had Keenan on the podcast, and I was like, oh fuck. I was like, I don't know anything.
I think you posted a cocktail video a couple of weeks ago, and we were looking at the way you were stirring it. I was like, you got to go back over there and tell him.
That's pretty funny. Yeah. He is, I think I know he's coming in for a Tales from the Bar episode here I think at the end of the month. And John Page and I have been talking about starting a YouTube show that's all around spirits called Booze and Buddies. And, we were talking about trying to get Keenan in to do a recurring segment on that. I also think it'd be cool to like have Keenan come in and do his own cocktail show of whatever he wants to do here from Eat Local.
Yeah, we've been toying with the idea of him doing a cocktail event where he teaches people how to mix cocktails.
That'd be cool.
We were toying about doing it we were toying with the idea of doing it this month, but it may end up being next month. Yeah,
I'd for sure jump on that. I do want to host like a cocktail, like a mix-off sort of a thing. Is not that that's like some be-all, end-all thing, but just to have fun, get some like talented bartenders together and have them do some interesting things. I've thought about, because as my bourbon collection is growing, I've thought about just putting something on Eat Local, like, hey, I've got 10 spots for followers who want to come in and spend a couple hours trying some different bourbons.
Right on.
That's one thing that I not to go back to like the detriment of our current food scene, but I feel like 6-7 years ago, we did just have a better sense of like quality food. Like there were more events circling around it. Like there was like the cook-off at Onondaga Lake.
Oh, the Chobani.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not that was like some fine food thing, but there was definitely more of an attention. It was more chef focused.
Yeah. That was an interesting event. I was kind of mad that I went to it because I really wanted to go to the Ironman in Lake Placid that weekend. And Chance Bear, who I was working with at the time, was like, no, you have to go. You have to like network with people.
Yeah.
And by the time all those chefs were done cooking, they were just like, we need a drink and we're going to get out of here.
Yeah.
So I didn't really get to meet anybody. But it was a cool thing to see.
Yeah.
I'd never watched a cooking competition live before.
Yeah.
It's not something that I would ever be interested in doing, but
right.
It was a cool thing to see, and it was cool that they were doing it.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I think I'm getting more to like the attention of chefs. There hasn't been too much of a focus on chefs in our area in the past couple of years. It doesn't feel like, which it's understandable with COVID, but I don't know. I want to figure out ways to like help facilitate that,
Yeah.
Because I mean, Syracuse has had some attention on it with some of the celebrities coming through, because they're kids at SU in the food world and not in the food world. And
we have, I think Eric Repair's son is going to SU now.
Yeah.
Keenan was actually begging somebody from one of the departments to like have Eric Repair come in here. We'll bump somebody.
Oh, really?
Sorry if you get bumped.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you tried to make a reservation, we probably would.
Yeah, for sure.
And Ann Burrell. I know that there's been some news about her lately.
Yeah.
It would be cool to meet those guys.
Yeah. So that's kind of just what I'm like thinking about. Like, are we prepared for like when the moment strikes? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When the opportunity arises, sort of a thing. But Also, just trying to kind of help, facilitate some of that, better food come into our area. So much of it is, mass bought, just, Cisco turned and burned.
Well, I think there are good restaurants in our area, and we're trying to elevate the food scene.
Yeah.
I'm excited every time I see a new cool concept open up.
Yeah.
I like to see there be more one-off concepts of like, I guess Exo Taco is an example. They do tacos.
Yeah.
There isn't a burger on their menu, to my knowledge.
No.
I don't know. I haven't been there in a while, but I feel like doing a one-off concept really well is something that makes a food scene diverse.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see more of that instead of people putting like, having the chicken franchise and the cheeseburger and the steak on their menu. You know, just focus on your style of cuisine.
Yeah.
And do that really well.
That's what Mark Bolus and I were just talking about earlier was, or last week on the podcast, was like that. Restaurants that are, more focused in on, we do burgers, we do this, specializing in on like one concept and perfecting it, trying to, instead of like one restaurant that's got like this vast, massive menu that's trying to appeal to everybody.
Yeah, I remember one of my first restaurant jobs was at a restaurant in Burlington that's since closed, so I can kind of dog on it now. But it was called Carver's, and they had an 8-page menu, and it was so complicated that they had 4x8 sheets of plywood on the ceiling, and each menu item had like what was in it written out. So it didn't matter who was in there; they could just read it and put it together.
Oh my God,
which was wild.
Yeah,
but it was like it was a staple, not to compare it to Possibilities because they're two totally different concepts. But it was that kind of like staple in the sense that it was the place to go. You know, where like Karen has built that business over so many years, and it's such a popular place.
Yeah,
and I went in there 4 weeks ago. It had an awesome meal.
Yeah.
And she's done a great job over a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's great to see restaurants like that around too, that are just like, beasts in the food scene. And like,
sure.
And she's been super friendly and helpful to me too, like kind of mentoring me and telling me like, what I should be focusing on and looking at to grow our business.
I feel bad. I always forget about Possibilities. They're on that list too for best restaurants for sure. And that would stack up against somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great restaurant. It's hard to manage the quality in something that big.
Yeah,
that's always that busy, and I understand that. She probably has a lot of staff. I can only imagine. And she's running multiple businesses. She's got the hot tomato thing. She's got the daily bread.
Yeah,
so it's a lot. If you're trying to like individually manage quality, which is something that I try to do at our restaurant. Yeah. Like it's hard if you can't be on top of everything all the time.
Right.
And even like I see stuff slip in our restaurant and then I have to go and correct it.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at it from that high level, you have to have really good management underneath you, but some things are going to fall through the cracks.
You always seem really chill and relaxed, but is there other times where you're like, fuck, I don't want to get on that side of Rich? Like when it comes to that, like, things slipping in the kitchen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Short answer. Yes. I'm not a screamer or a yeller.
Well, you can't be in your restaurant, right?
No.
I mean, like during in some restaurants during service, you might hear a pan fly through the, kitchen. You can't do that at Eden.
I've thrown things in our kitchen before.
Really?
It's a good thing that brick wall is back there. Yeah, it's only happened, I think, twice.
Yeah.
One time I stomped my foot because a farmer had brought us a bunch of eggs. We did a brunch.
Okay.
And a farmer had brought us a case of eggs. And I don't know, he put it in the back of his truck or something. And every single yolk broke when I was trying to crack the eggs for this one dish. And it was like, I tried like 10 times.
Jesus.
And every single yolk broke. And I finally just stomped my foot. The staff still makes fun of me about it today. I stomped my foot on the ground. I was like, God damn it. But I'm not really a yeller. I'm more of a, because I worked for a female chef that was not a yeller for 4 years, and she taught me a lot.
Yeah.
And she never yelled, but she would make you feel really horrible about yourself if you did something wrong.
Yeah.
And she was also very knowledgeable, and she worked in, like, I compare my upbringing in kitchens to the way that staff works now, and I feel like they're soft maybe because when I was a kid, it was like you did get yelled at, and people wouldn't put up with that now.
Yeah.
But I mean, she was a cook in France in the 70s. Like she cooked her way all the way through Bordeaux in the 70s.
Wow.
and then ended up being like Neil Peart's personal chef on his yacht.
Huh.
Yeah, but she was a phenomenal cook, but she never yelled. She would just like, that's not how you do that. And just make you feel like a horrible human being. And then you go, okay, and we'll do it that way again.
That's pretty funny. Yeah. Is it tough to find like the exceptional talent that you probably need here in Syracuse? I mean, I know you don't have this, 100-person staff, but so you can get away with a few. But has that been challenging over the past couple years to try and find like a chef who's going to come in and kind of get it and be open? Or
I would say, the people that are with us have been with us for a while. Mm-hmm. So after a while, they just get it.
Yeah.
The most difficult part, I think, is just finding people that want to stick around and want to be involved, and that have the passion and understand that like the goal is to make something special.
Yeah.
And the goal is to present something special to people because it's their special night out.
Right.
They're there because it's a birthday or an anniversary or some kind of special occasion, and you don't want to screw that up. You want to elevate that experience for them.
Yeah.
So I think the difficult part is more finding people that are dedicated to it and dedicated to the craft, because there's so many other things you could do and make more money at.
Yeah.
And especially now when I see like, people want to be Instagram influencers and they think that, that's a career, and it is for some people.
Yeah.
People still have to cook, and I think if you love it, like finding people that really love it enough to make the sacrifices to do it day in and day out, especially in a restaurant like ours where it's really hard work. I mean, before I came here today, we put 5 cords of wood in our basement.
Jesus.
It was just me and one other guy. So having that drive to want to do something special, I think that all the staff that we have now does have that drive.
Yeah.
And they understand the concept and they understand the importance of it. But getting there has been tough. And I would rather have people that are dedicated and want to work and want to learn than people that know it all. The one person that knows it all in our restaurant is Keenan.
Yeah.
He's and I give him free reign to create whatever he wants to create, and I learn from that. Because he's studied, as much as I studied in my field. I used to go home and read cookbooks voraciously. Like I'll read a cookbook in a night. And I know that he does that too with wine and spirits, and he's always reading and always learning. And he'll ask me about like, how do I make cheese from scratch? And I'll be like, well, you start with this. He's like, you know what? Let me read a book, and then I'll ask you if I have any questions. And he's just like that. He wants to learn. And I'm kind of the same way. Like I'm very curious about things.
Yeah.
Whether it's food or music or, my other hobbies.
Yeah.
I'm always curious. I always want to know more.
Yeah.
And, we haven't really found a lot of people like that. I mean, it's probably just me and Keenan in our restaurant. But the people that we do have are dedicated. They're proud of what they do. And I think that's the most important thing. If you bring that to the table, teaching somebody how to cook isn't hard.
Yeah. It's got to be, most fine dining restaurants are kind of, unless you're like the person, or maybe like the one or top, like the top 2 or 3 people. I'd imagine not that Eden is like fine dining in that sense, but for like for a well-respected restaurant like Eden, I'd imagine can be challenging because a lot of those positions are kind of like not transient, like they're here today, gone tomorrow, but they're kind of like stepping stones to like if you're in that space to be aware that, hey, I'm working at this really great fucking restaurant. I want to get, but you have somebody like Keenan who's constantly learning and growing and, on their way to become, right, how do you kind of hold people down? how do you keep them from leaving? I just think of, most more national stories, nationally known restaurants, I guess, fine dining restaurants. Unless you're like the person, like you're the chef, most of those are like, hey, I'm going to be here for a year. I'm going to learn what I need to learn. I'm going to take that and go on to the next biggest restaurant, fancier restaurant, whatever the case is, trying to build their own career sort of a thing.
Yeah, well, I see in our restaurant, if you do want to take the initiative and you want to do something different than what we have been doing or what we've traditionally done, those guys all can give me input. You know, I might say that's an idea if I don't think it's going to work. Yeah. But if somebody has an idea and I think it's going to work, I'll implement it. So I give them the freedom. I mean, especially with Keenan, him more so probably than anybody else because he is so knowledgeable. Yeah. But, you know, Alex or Asa, if they have an idea, you know, I say run with it. Yeah. Like, let's try it out. Because they're in a spot now in Syracuse where if they're not going to leave Syracuse, they're working at one of the top 3 restaurants. Right. And, I mean, they could go to Amano or they could go to St. Urban. I think that, you know, we provide enough of a kind of a family atmosphere. Yeah. That everybody's friendly. You know, they do have benefits. They probably wouldn't get those at those other restaurants. And they do have the freedom to experiment with stuff if they want to. Yeah. So that's how I keep them engaged. You know, if somebody has an idea, let's try it out. Yeah. Let's figure it out. Or, you know, try it once, and then if we can figure out a better way to do it, we'll try something different next time. Yeah.
Do you feel a sense of responsibility at all for being one of like those 3 restaurants in Syracuse?
I would say my biggest sense of responsibility is to the staff, because they're friends of mine. Yeah. You know, I'm not like the kind of boss that's like I just look at them as like underlings. Like I look at us all as equals, and they're people I care about. So my main goal is to make sure they stay employed. And by producing a high-level product, I feel like I can keep them employed. Yeah. Because we get return guests, and the word gets out, and you know we're busy every night now, which is great. Awesome. You know, we used to have like a lull on Wednesday and Thursday. It's gotten way better.
Huh, that's awesome.
And every year it's just, you know, it goes up and up. Yeah. Which is great.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, yes, I want to impress the guests, and I realize it's a special occasion for them, but I also want to make sure that my staff is taken care of, because at the end of the day, like I know I can't do it on my own. Yeah. I tried when we reopened after COVID, and it was almost put me in my grave. It was a lot to try and do it on my own. But I have a lot of respect for them for showing up every day and just doing the job that needs to get done. Yeah. I know it's not easy, but to hold ourselves to a higher level, we have to do those things.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I'm excited for this new year, man, with the dry aging thing you got going on. That's going to be really cool.
I'm really pumped. I can't wait to do charcuterie. Yeah. We have, you know, 3 bone-in ribeyes that are coming in tomorrow that I'm just excited to get in there.
That's cool.
We got a new wine fridge this year too, which is great. Yeah. We're finally like organizing the wine program a little bit more. That's cool. It's been pretty good. I mean, Keenan got us a Wine Spectator Award, which is pretty incredible considering that we only carry New York State wine. Yeah.
What does something like that mean for the restaurant?
I mean, I think it gives. So when we first opened and we said we only carry New York State wine, there were certain people in the restaurant industry, I'm not going to name names, but that came in and they were like, oh, I don't want to dine here if you're only going to carry New York State wine. Like, it's just not worth my time. And I find that laughable because our whole concept is eat local, drink local, you know, be in the place that you're in. Yeah. And we also, like, if you want to come in with a bottle of wine, we'll cork it for you. It's $25. You know, it's a pretty standard fee. Yeah. So if you want to come in with something special, you know, you can. Cha just opened a wine shop right down the street, and she's got a bunch of like weird and funky wines and like, you know, one-offs that, you know, you can go right down the street and buy something different if you want it. Yeah. But I think when Keenan put together our wine list, Wine Spectator gave it credibility. Mm-hmm. So people can't say like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. You're just buying New York State wine. Yeah. Like we have a level 2 certified sommelier that put this together, right, and will be part of our concept for, you know, even if he decides to move somewhere else, like he'll be part of our concept, and he'll still be somebody that I look to help us build our beverage program and keep it, you know, on the level it's been.
That's really cool.
And I think the same thing goes with the cocktails. You know, you can have I've had great cocktails at, like, I went to Dante, had a great cocktail. It was fairly expensive, But then you go to other bars. Like I went to the Campbell Apartment. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's in Grand Central Station.
Okay.
It's kind of a swanky bar.
Yeah.
It was the conductors or the person that was in charge of Grand Central. It was their apartment at one point.
Oh, cool.
It's a swanky bar, but I ordered a Manhattan. It wasn't that great.
Yeah.
So, having a drink that's like truly spectacular, I don't think that people realize it until they've tried it.
Yeah.
And what Keenan is doing, I think is pretty spectacular.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I forgot about Cha. I was thinking about her yesterday, and I was talking to somebody and just saying how she seems so random to me, and to the point like I met her or I think it was not this past summer, but the summer before that at like an event Eat Local had at Buried Acorn, and she showed up to it and she was like, "You're the person I was here to see." And I was like, "Who are you?" And then she sat down and talking and letting me know like, who she is and, what she's done. And I was like, why are you in Syracuse?
When I first met her, I kind of questioned that too, but I think she has family here.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think that makes sense for her. It's the same reason I'm here.
Yeah.
But she has done some pretty interesting stuff. I think she's part of she runs the beverage program for the Charleston Food and Wine Festival.
Yeah.
Or some festival down south. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm probably misquoting that, but
yeah.
Yeah, she did an event at our space too. We had a wine dinner there.
That's right.
And she brought a bunch of interesting wines.
That's cool.
She comes into dinner at our place every so often and brings interesting wine in and lets Keenan and I try it. She'll blind taste us on it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
We have a cool community in Hanover Square.
Yeah.
Just, with us, the Evergreen, Maxwells, they're awesome.
Yeah.
Orbis, I can't really figure out, but the tea is a friend of mine. I just can't figure out the concept.
I'm banned from Maxwell's.
Are you?
Yeah. I said they posted a Instagram video earlier this year, and it was like a crowded bar, and there was these two women dancing on top of the bar.
I heard this story, and one of them put their foot in the ice well.
And I commented, and because I've been like, especially around that time, I was watching a lot of like bar rescue and stuff, and so I made the comment. I was like, "This looks like the scene right before John Taffer walks in." Who's the guy from Bar Rescue, because it's just like, who the fuck wants somebody's dirty feet on the bar during Granted, Maxwell's isn't like some fancy establishment or anything like that, but anyway, so I was blocked from their Instagram account, and then somebody like a couple of weeks after that, hey, huh? Yeah.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
My sister's a huge fan too, and she actually was eating your steak. Like, she got into the car and then she went into labor.
Oh,
I saw that comment.
Yes.
It's literally because of the steak.
That's hilarious.
You need to get that on the microphone.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Well, thank you so much. She did.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Thank you.
I saw that comment or post sometime on Instagram. Somebody was like, "This is the meal I had."
She's been a fan of ours since like day one, before day one.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But somebody had told me, they were like, "Yeah, I ran into the owner of, I think it was Nick. Nick was like the guy that owns Maxwell." So I had no idea who the hell it was. He was like, "I just ran into him, and he's not a fan of yours. You need to call him and smooth it over." I called him as I was like 6 beers deep in Louisville, Kentucky, with Kyle and Jesse.
Oh, jeez.
And they had gone down there to pick out a barrel of Knob Creek rye for the tap house, and I went with them to like film it and stuff. And so we landed off the plane and went straight to a brewery and started drinking at like noon. And so I was like 6 beers deep. I was like, I'm gonna call this motherfucker. Like 10 minutes later, we were like yelling at each other on the phone, and he told me I was banned from the restaurant. I was like, I don't fucking care. So anyways, yeah.
Pete's cool. He'll get over it.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
It's the only place I've ever been banned from in Syracuse.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other places people wouldn't be happy if they saw me walk into, but it's the only place that's officially banned me. Well, thanks, man, for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, anytime.
I appreciate it. I'm excited to see this dry aged program coming out.
Yeah.
And I mean, Syracuse needs a steakhouse, and granted, you're not a steakhouse, but you guys, I think, definitely are the place to go if you're looking for a great steak.
You know, we're just trying to do what we do well.
Yeah.
And it made the most sense because we want to get steak from local farms.
Yeah.
It made the most sense to do it that way.
Yeah.
We did take the inspiration from that from a steakhouse. So it was actually, last time I was in New York, I went and had 2 dinners, and one of them was at that steakhouse.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I had a full dinner with dessert, and then I was like, Hawksmoor's right around the corner. I could just go in there for a steak real quick. So I got a 14-ounce strip steak on top of what I'd already eaten. I felt kind of uncomfortable the next day.
Yeah, but
it was worth it.
Yeah.
It's a really cool place.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.